Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am BorderWise, and I really need to start getting better at making engines in From the Depths. Which is why this video is being made, because as I relearn, repractice and re-educate myself, I'm going to be sharing the progress with all of you watching here. And so today we're going to be talking about a very basic thing that you need to do with engines when you're experimenting with them and you're designing them and so on and so forth, and that is engine testing. So, I can't take credit for this, I should hasten to add, because the From the Depths community, the Depthians, as they are sometimes referred to, has been doing this for ages. This has been a feature of engines, I think maybe since the beginning of the game, like long before Steam engines or RTGs or anything like that were added. So yeah, like, I didn't come up with this. What I'm showing you is my particular, I guess, flavor of doing it. So yeah, so the reason you need to test engines to see what they're fully capable of is because engines don't actually display their true power level. It's like Dragon Ball Z. They have a hidden power level, and then, you know, that renders the scouter useless. And so, in order to see if their power level is over 9,000, you need to put them under a bit of strain. Which in this analogy just means you need something that uses a lot of power. So, how do you do that? The simplest way these days to do that is to use this block right here. This is the Sensor Scrambler ECM, which, as per the tooltip, it interferes with enemy wireless connections to missiles in between vehicles. Which, among other things, I'm probably going to bang on about at length when I get around to making a video about remote-guided missiles, because this is one of the few ways to distract them. But today, what we're really interested in is that this thing can use a hell of a lot of power, should you want it to. So, it can go, just one of these things, this one little block can go all the way up to 20,000, which is a lot of power. I don't quite remember if I've ever made any craft that uses this much power or needs it, but if I ever decide to make a giant particle cannon battleship or a laser battleship or something like that, I probably would need that. But for now, all you need to know is this thing can use a hell of a lot of power, and that's very good for loading engines fully. And speaking of loading engines fully, you'll notice that we're in the Land Designer, and this is a structure. It is not a fortress, it's not a vehicle. And the reason for that is because you want a stable platform so you don't get motion sick while you're working on it, but fortresses require power to stay afloat and intact, and just to make it simpler on my not very maths-capable brain, I prefer to have the starting power at 0. So we've got some battery power, because I've stuck some batteries on this, and you'll see why I've done that in a bit, but the actual power down here in the bottom right corner, the power of the vehicle starts at absolutely 0, so we can get a 100% easy and accurate view of whatever engine we're doing. So speaking of displaying true and false power levels, that's not strictly true, because fuel engines, conveniently enough, display their real power level when you build them. So I'm just going to go into prefabs and find engines. And we're going to go with the Cube Terry, which is not an incredibly good engine. It's just exactly 3x3x3, and I came up with the Cube Terry, by the way, and named it. It's nothing special, it's just very modular and very convenient. So you see down there, in the bottom right corner, the power of the vehicle is listed as 2,496. That is a bold-faced lie, because if we hop over here, we can see that the stable power of this is 1140.4. And that is because injector engines run red hot, and if you want to get more power out of them, you need to do funky things with cooling them down. So, 1140.4. So let us test that by going all the way up here. I'm going to do that just in case. And you'll see that the power down in the bottom right has dropped dramatically as the engine is put under stress. This is why this engine isn't actually particularly good, is because of the power you see, you only get around half of it. So we're at 11,140, and that's not super good. So I should perhaps work on this thing a bit more to make it a lot better. So yeah, that's fuel engines, is that conveniently they do show in there the problem you have, and one of the cylinders is overheating, But... Aha! I have found a flaw with my design here. Ah yes, there we go. I have messed up this prefab. I totally did that on purpose, but I didn't. So here we go. Now that this thing actually has exhaust, now the stable power has risen to 1710. And I would only have noticed that with the power being put under stress. So here we go. These are very useful. So yeah, that's fuel engines. Now, if you're not using fuel engines, if you're using different kinds of engines, you need to... It's not as convenient with displaying the true power level, which means you really do need to put them under load to even get a hint at what's going on. So, I'm going to quickly build a steam engine and show you what I'm on about. Okay, so we've built a steam engine, and I totally didn't just whip up a prefab that I made earlier. So, this is a little configuration I just called a Munchmart because Deacon's Christmas, it eats materials like no one's business. Just gonna activate my magic recuperation of materials powers. And so you'll see down in the bottom right that the power is at 84,000. Doesn't that look really nice? And one of the main hurdles I have with Steam, or had with Steam rather, is that you look at that number and that number is a bold-faced lie. And in order to see the actual number, well, as you've probably guessed, you need to put it under load. So we put it under load, here we go. That seems alright, but we're not using nearly enough power, so what can we do? What can we do here? Well, you just put it under more load. Oh, look at that! We're now got two of these guys set to draw 20,000 power, and the steam engine is showing its true, not very good colors. So, under load, this steam engine, this huge expensive steam engine, does 27,733 power, which isn't actually that terrible, really, because this thing actually still has better material per volume than that little injector engine I showed, so arguably it is better, but we could definitely improve it. So thank goodness for engine testing for that. And, in case you're wondering, just because a steam engine can't reach, like, the maximum advertised power, doesn't necessarily make it useless, because you can manually set, more for convenience sake than anything else, you don't need to do this, you can set the maximum power creation on the gearbox itself. So, the maximum power we can generate with this thing is 27,733, so I'm just going to put here a number that I copied earlier, that. So, now that we can go over here, 27,000, so let's go over here, 0, doing absolutely fine, and we're just going to add 7,733. 7,733, boop, and beautiful. So now, we know this engine. We know its true power level. Isn't that convenient? So what about electric engines? So, let us build some kind of electric engine charging device, and we'll get back to you on that. Alrighty, so here we are again, and we have an electric engine setup. Kind of. We've got two separate electric engines over here. Doesn't make a huge amount of difference, except that electric engines cost money, so you preferably want them in all one big battery block, if you want to rely on them. And we got our big fat RTG, so this is the most expensive, arguably most less well used, I need to try that sentence again, the 3x3 RTG, 5,000 materials and 405 energy generated per second. So, if we look down at the number down there, we'll see that our engine power, which is, for electric engines, it's based specifically on how much battery power is being held, is 3,600. So if we take out one of these batteries, you see that the power drops a little bit. Right there, like, we go down from 3,600 to 3,240. So, more batteries equal more power potentially for your electric engine. But that's not the sneaky bit. The sneaky bit is that you need to, if you want to maintain steady power with them, you need to match your electricity generation to your power requirements. So, it's pretty one-to-one, so that if you want, say, these electric engines to work at full power, you need something that generates, well, that amount of power. So this thing isn't going to cut it. So 1 RTG isn't going to do it. So if we set this to 3,600, you'll see immediately that our electric engines are overloaded. The power is ticking down. We're getting less and less power with each passing moment because that RTG cannot keep up with demand at all. So how do we fix that? Well, we need to add more electricity generation. So in order to, and I actually did some math ahead of times, you need 9 of these things in order to produce 3,600 power, which is less than ideal. So I'm just going to place some down. So there we go. We're now producing just over 3,600 power per second. So if we go here and place this, you will see that we have basically matched it perfectly, so to speak. Our battery power isn't actually going down, and we're still going at, we've got 3,600 power. So, on the note of testing, this is where you really can see the difference between different methods of generating power. Because 9 of these things is ridiculously expensive, and it's big. So this is 3 by 3 by 3 times 9. That's a lot of volume. And these are 5,000 things each. So 15,000 times 3. It's 45,000 materials for not much power. So RTGs tend to have a niche use for that very reason. And so what else can you do? Well, there are other ways, better ways of generating electricity, so we can show that right now. Alrighty, so now we've got some steam turbines. Again, not particularly good ones, but they're just double-engined, and this particular setup generates about 537 energy per second, which is quite nice. And you'll notice that this whole setup is way cheaper because steam engines are quite cheap. There are not very many materials per component unless you go really big, and considerably less volume. So can it match those RTGs? Almost. Slightly less. So just one more. And away we go. You'll notice now that the battery energy is ticking up. So now we've got a stable amount of energy generation, which is pretty good. So yeah, that's basically engine testing for you. And you can test them in other ways, particularly with energy generation and anything that generates electricity. You can just set up a particle cannon to fire endlessly. So here we have a particle cannon. This is the light burst, which you can find and just in the particle cannon section. It's this prefab over here. And now we can test if our tiny little steam engines can actually keep up with this thing. Spoiler alert, I don't think they'll be able to. I've set the charge time to 1. Let's have a look at the energy down there. Nope. Nope, nope, nope. We're gonna need a lot more juice than that. So, whenever you're designing particle cannons or lasers or basically energy weapons in general, having a little test fortress or structure like this is actually very handy because it means you can see exactly how much power it requires. So, just to finish this off, let us see if we can't get this big guy rolling. So now we've gone the whole hog with more prefab steam turbines that I found in the Steam menu. Let's see if that can do it. Nope, still not quite. And also, we definitely need to shoot something because that's just something that's got to happen. So yeah, that's basically engine testing. I realize I was not showing off particularly good engines, but more importantly, this is how you figure out what are good engines in the first place. You gotta test them. And using a method like this, I've already improved my knowledge of engines considerably, and you can just keep tinkering with it and you can get a lot further than you would otherwise. So, pretty short guide, pretty quick guide, and wow, I accidentally made a particle cannon that's kind of fun, if not good. So yeah, test your engines, ladies and gentlemen, because remember, engines are like Dragon Ball Z, you gotta find their true power level. That's how Dragon Ball Z goes, right? I remember anime. So in any case, thank you all so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. Support me on Patreon or YouTube membership if you like. It really helps, and there's fun perks in it for you. Thank you to all my current supporters, and I will see you next time in From the Depths. Farewell.